For RCR Wireless News, I'm Sean Kinney here with Macario Namey, who is the head of IoT strategy for Cisco Jasper. And I really want to get a better understanding of how platforms like Cisco Jasper's automated connectivity management solution accelerate ROI for IoT deployments.
Yeah. Thank you. It's an excellent question, and thanks for having me. You know, we really look at when an enterprise is trying to connect their product. Imagine a thing maker, if you will. They know how their product's supposed to work. They know the kind of service that they're trying to deliver by connecting this thing. They have a solid understanding of what to do with the data in many cases, because that's what prompted that initial connection to begin with. But for most organizations, the simple act of getting that thing connected is brand new, and it's very complex, and frankly, it's a skill set that most organizations don't have. Is how do you actually embed connectivity and make it work not just in one location or in one country, but everywhere around the world, and do so in a high quality of service and at mass scale. And that's really what the problem we set out to solve. And we did that about 12 years ago with the creation of a platform that's called Control Center. So we really take Control Center to allow organizations to completely automate all the management and onboarding and deployment and provisioning of network services to connect their things, to connect their products. And we do this in concert with the mobile network operators. We have relationships with over 30 mobile network operators around the world so that it can be simply a turnkey solution for any company looking to connect their thing on those cellular network providers. And it can be consistent and standardized all around the world.
Yeah, and these partnerships are really key to helping drive adoption of IoT solutions. So Macario, if we take that end-to-end approach and elevate it to an industry level, what is the best way that the various IoT stakeholders can cooperate to continue to drive smart car, home, and business technologies into the market?
Yeah, you know, it's collaboration is absolutely key. If you look at the entire technology stack of what it actually takes to deploy an Internet of Things initiative, it's extraordinarily complicated, and no one company or no one product can solve it all because there's multiple layers. What we've done at Cisco Jasper is focus on the communications layer, which is a hard problem, and we've done a nice job trying to solve that. But the truth is, it's one layer amongst many. Everything from the sensors to the extraction of information and the protocol translations, to transport of that data in secure fashions, to be able to house it either in a data center or in a public cloud system or in a hybrid system, to be able to apply analytics, to be able to do it in real time, to be able to take all those automated actions. So what we're seeing is a lot of the industry players are coming together to actually either as partners, one-on-one partners, where they'll pre-integrate their technologies just to make it that much easier for these companies. So as an example, Cisco Jasper has already done integrations and partnerships with Microsoft with their Azure IoT suite, with IBM Watson IoT, with SAP HANA IoT is just an example. But we're also starting to see consortiums develop to tackle some more complex problems that are not necessarily solved by the joining of one or two products together. So as an example, Cisco participates extensively in something called the Open Fog Consortium. And this is an organization that recognizes that the processing of information, the computing power of all this massive amount of data that's being extracted from these things will not just all go to the cloud. Some of it's going to have to be processed locally. And so that computing layer down at the kind of the edge, or what we call fog, is a perfect example of how do you enable something that hasn't been done before, and how do you make it just drop dead simple for companies to be able to adopt it. In order to do that, you need to have multiple players coming together and actually tackling these problems.
Automotive is a major vertical for Cisco Jasper, but I think when people consider the connected car, they get focused on that consumer experience. But Cisco Jasper really enables services across that entire life cycle from manufacturing to post-sales.
That's right. That's right. And in the automotive sector, the sexy story is certainly the consumer experience. However, to get there, there's a whole level of complex life cycle elements that have to be managed in order to deliver that kind of service to the consumers. When you think about a car manufacturer, they typically will build or design their engine parts once, including the communications module, and it has to work everywhere around the world. When they put it into the car, they need to be able to do a series of tests to make sure it's going to work, to deliver that high quality standard that we've all come to expect from a vehicle that's going to last 10 or more years out in the field. So to be able to do those kinds of tests, to be able to put the car into the distribution channel and still have it be able to be connected when it needs to be able to receive software updates, to be able to send its location in case it ever gets lost, to be able to enable at the time of sale during the sort of dealership test drive to showcase all of the services that are available, because that's now becoming part of the car's brand. And then after the car is sold, there's a whole series of services that are going to be offered to those consumers, as well as connected services that are managed by the car manufacturers. And they all have to work in concert with each other and deliver a seamless experience. And they're going to vary. They're going to vary by car manufacturer, by model, by consumer type, and actually even by country. And all of that level of complexity to get that simple act of connecting the car is really what we do. And we allow the car manufacturers to program how they want to deliver these kinds of services. And they do it on the platform once, and then we just simply execute it on their behalf.
So Macario, that's just how Cisco Jasper is impacting the automotive sector. Tell us about some of these other vertical applications that you're seeing.
Yeah, automotive is simply one. The truth is, IoT is impacting nearly every vertical industry. Some of the fastest growing vertical markets that we see on our platform today. Point of sale systems, so moving to a cashless society, and all those credit card terminals are now proliferating all around the world. Home security systems, you see fixed line in the home starting to go away, and more of them are starting to use cellular. Even the old line industries like factories, manufacturing, are going through this renaissance where they're looking at how do you create a high degree of automation on that factory floor to eliminate downtime. And you eliminate downtime by collecting information about the performance in concert with each other of all of these things that make that factory go, and then be able to understand trends and then start to be able to predict failures before they start to go. In the automotive sector, on the manufacturing side, as an example, 1 minute of downtime cost a car manufacturer well over $20,000. 1 minute of downtime. So you can imagine the impact that IoT can have when companies are looking to connect these things and then use this data in real time to be able to bring massive business benefits like the elimination of downtime.
Yeah, IoT really is affecting change in every industry. And Macario, thank you for sharing Cisco Jasper's role in that change.
Great, thank you.
For RCR Wireless News, I'm Sean Kinney here with Ericsson's Chief Strategy Officer and Head of Region North America, Rima Qureshi. So Rima, I appreciate you taking some time to speak with me today, and I really want to get a better idea of Ericsson's approach to 5G and the Internet of Things. I've often heard 5G described as the ultimate enabler of the IoT, but right now we still don't have a standard. So from Ericsson's perspective, what are some of the major technological issues that need to be addressed before we see commercialized mobile 5G?
Well, actually, things are moving quite fast. We have talked about 5G being deployed from a standards perspective in 2020, and even over 100 million to 200 million subscribers in 2021, but things are advancing quite quickly. We, of course, have quite a few pre-standard trials ongoing, as well as standards development that is happening. And we are on a path, I would say, to have quite a few pre-standards trials completed, with pre-standard trials leading to friendly launches by the end of this year. And then we can definitely expect systems being deployed in the context of Olympics and big sports events coming up in 2018 in quite a few different markets.
A big part of the value created by the Internet of Things lies within the data that's produced by the myriad sensors and other devices. So what needs to happen on the network side to allow us to use that data to create actionable insight in real time?
We've talked about 5G as the generation of the network society, or basically connecting up all Internet of Things. And what we need to do is to ensure that we have the basic capabilities of what we refer to within 5G as network slices or instances, which means different use cases for Internet of Things will require different characteristics of the network. So what we need to do is to ensure that the basic network functionality and capabilities are deployed to then be able to get these insights and to develop these use cases and generate the statistics that we need specifically, depending on the application that you're using for IoT.
So Rima, I recently had a chance to look at some Ericsson research that pointed to augmented reality and virtual reality as poised for explosive growth in 2017. But from your perspective, what needs to happen on the network side to really ensure a seamless AR/VR experience for the end user?
AR/VR, we are actually demonstrating some of this within our booth and some of the use cases that we see. So I think in terms of what needs to happen in how you deploy the 5G network is actually the types of things that we are addressing when we are doing trials and proofs of concepts today. So we have ideas of how 5G will be utilized. We're then turning that into use cases, business cases, and trials with our customers. And we are assessing what that means in terms of how we should be deploying the network. So as we do the trial, we are also then determining which is the best way to deploy the network. How would you deploy the small cells? How would you use other access technologies? How would you deploy the macro network? And then all of that together will then give us the insights that we need in terms of what the network structure should look like. Not only for what we need for AR/VR, but all of the industry and society applications as well as the Internet of Things applications that we will be using.
For RCR Wireless News, I'm Sean Kinney, here to learn a little bit more about Cisco's approach to the Internet of Things and 5G from JL Valente, who's the VP GM of Cisco's Service Provider Business Strategy. So JL, I think a lot of times when we discuss IoT, the focus is just on inexpensive sensors, but it's so much more than that. What is Cisco's view on the market opportunity presented by the Internet of Things?
Sure. Good morning first, Sean. I'm glad to be here. So sensors are really, first, the Internet of Things, if you look at it, is really the next evolution of the Internet. And this is paving the way to global digital transformation. Massive opportunities, potentially trillions of value creation, at least that's what the experts are talking about. And that requires obviously a whole infrastructure, a value chain, a supply chain that goes way beyond the sensors. Sensors are essential, actuators are as well, but they are a tiny fraction of the overall infrastructure that needs to be put in place to be able to support the outcomes that enterprises, industries, governments, cities are expecting out of IoT. In fact, when you look at some of the announcements that are coming out of the market, the industry at the beginning of 2017 around connected cars, connected cities, connected industries, you can see the ramifications and the importance of having, end-to-end architectures that obviously consider the infrastructure, even the physical infrastructure when you look at transportation, the platforms, connectivity platforms, device platforms, as well as the application enablement, the ecosystems that need to be created to harness the value out of those different bits of data coming from those sensors. So it's a much, obviously, bigger play, and Cisco has actually efforts in many of those different activities.
You know, JL, I've often heard 5G described as the ultimate platform for IoT. And I think the vision there is delivering IoT services via a 5G network slice. So how is Cisco approaching virtualizing these network components ahead of 5G?
That's a very good question. We talk more and more of network slicing. When you really look at it, it's a critical constituent of delivering differentiated services as it enables operators to run multiple logical networks as virtually independent business operations on a common physical infrastructure. And that obviously requires software-defined networking for control, as well as a pretty nifty network function virtualization environment. So to your point, when we look at it at Cisco, there are three fundamental elements that are required to make network slicing works. The first one is a collection of control points in the user plane that enables to steer traffic differently based on applications and so on. The second point is the data enablement of those actually elements, which is really located to or driven by subscribers and policies, so the intelligence that you need now to capture in those areas. And the third one is management and orchestration, to be able to create those sandboxes for the network slices, to configure them for operations, and then to manage them over time. So a kind of day zero, day one, day two, now dynamically for multiple slices that can cover some IoT applications, some broadband applications, so that you can really isolate and run with specific SLAs those different elements.
So JL, as businesses continue to invest in the Internet of Things, security is obviously top of mind. So what is the best approach for securing these joint physical and cyber systems?
This is a very, very good question. When you look at security, there are really two key aspects that need to be considered. One is visibility, being able to see and detect obviously abnormal behavior, and the other one is really being able to apply mitigation controls to obviously eradicate those potential threats. On the visibility side, it's all about really capturing telemetry and other data, and then applying actually baselining to understand where the normalcy of the network or the behavior that you have there. And you can apply that not only to the network, but the data centers and also the endpoints. So very important to capture those elements initially. In the data center, because you're virtualizing a lot in 5G and IoT of those assets, and therefore it brings an additional dimension of security that you need to take care of. That's the first piece. The second piece is really around mitigation controls. And here it's, at the end of the day, the overarching goal is really to fix the issues, the threats, as close to the source as possible to minimize collateral damage, and also to shorten the time it takes actually to fix those issues. So you need to apply now with the threat surface that you have for IoT and 5G, for example, you need to apply new, what we call in-depth defense technique through the ability actually to create, for example, on-the-fly service chains, apply techniques for DDoS, apply as well other elements into it, for example, through our OpenDNS to really get that going. The final element that is very critical is actually leveraging Cisco Jasper, which is really the IoT middleware platform that provides additional dimensions of control points into these IoT architectures and provide additional protection.
JL, I really appreciate you taking the time to share Cisco's perspective on these important technological evolutions.
Sure, Sean. Thank you very much. You're welcome.